Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Touch of Class show, episode 11. My name is Drew, and I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful Friday. Today, we have a loaded agenda, but first, I just want to quickly say this week, weather wise, has been one of the weirder weeks I've experienced in a while. In a span of 48 hours, we have had spring, summer, fall, and winter conditions. It was absolutely gorgeous earlier this week. I actually got back on court myself, was doing some warm up against the wall to just get back in the swing of things, no pun intended. And then yesterday was raining and even snowing at some points, which is absolutely despicable, and I rebuke all of that for the rest of this spring. I hope that you guys are all excited for the weekend. I know I am. And let's get right into it. For the agenda today, we have the Indian Wells recap. We're going to be going over the round of 16 as well as the quarterfinals, which took place yesterday. We'll then move into a Champions League recap, some pretty stunning results overall, and just a weekend, or a week, I should say, to forget for the Premier League. And finally, we'll end it off with a Premier League preview. Let's get right into it. No time to waste. Indian Wells. Let's start off with Alcaraz versus Casper Ruud. This round of 16 match is a match that we've seen before. You would expect Ruud to perform a little bit better, but Alcaraz ended up winning this match in straight sets 6-1, 7-6. Ruud had no chance in that first set. He was getting broken left and right. Alcaraz was just completely outplaying him in every aspect of the game. But in that second set, he really kind of locked in, was able to hold his serve, didn't get broken once, brought it to the tiebreak. And unfortunately, once you start losing momentum in a tiebreak against Carlos Alcaraz, all bets are off. And that is exactly what happened. Next, we move on to Nori versus Hijikata. Hijikata, the Australian qualifier, with a tournament to remember and possibly a tournament that is season-changing, as he will get loads of points, earn his way into the top 100, and now be automatically selected into the Grand Slams. Huge for him. But it's ultimately Cam Nori who takes this match 6-4, 6-2 to move on to then face Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinals, and we'll get into that in a moment. Cam Nori is playing at an absolute elite level at the moment. I mean, some of the people that he's taken out on his way just to get to Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinal was very impressive. He was taking out the likes of Alex de Minaur, number 6 in the world. Also took out the qualifier and McDonald. So, shout out to Nori. Then we move on to Draper versus Djokovic. And let me just say, this was a contender for match of the year so far, in my opinion. The only thing I would say that maybe edges it out slightly, or they're on even par, would be that Sinner Djokovic match at the Australian Open in the semifinals when Djokovic came back from down 2-1 to then overtake Sinner and eventually play Carlos Alcaraz in the Australian final. But Draper ended up winning this match 4-6, 6-4, 7-6. Now, that first set, Draper kind of looked a little bit off it. Djokovic came out hot. Usually in this Indian Wells tournament, we're used to seeing him start a bit slower, but it was Djokovic who broke Draper and was able to take that first set. In the second set, it was kind of the opposite. Draper then broke Djokovic, and it was kind of smooth sailing from there on. He was able to hold his serve, and Then we move on to this illustrious third set that went to the tiebreak. Draper is actually up in this match. He had the match to win on his own serve. It was 5-4 Draper, and the mental toughness that Draper has was really on display in this match because he folded in that 10th game because he should have won the third set 6-4. But Djokovic had some absolutely stunning points, not only just in that 10th game, but in the match overall. There was one rally that was probably, 20 shots back and forth, and it ended with a Djokovic drop shot. Draper still almost made it, and it was vintage Novak. Draper's also coming off of a massive injury, so that's playing into his mind just a little bit. He's changed a lot of his equipment. He's got new shoes on. He's got this deal with Asics. He's now using gut strings instead of the normal poly strings that he's been playing with his entire life. There's a point in the match where he's even pointing to his racket, saying, "These strings stink. I never want to use them again," to his coach's box. But he battled through it all. He gets himself into the tiebreak, and then in the tiebreak, he looks like he's down and out when he goes down 5-3 to Djokovic, losing both points on his own serve. Battles back again to make it 5-5, stealing both points on the Joker's serve. And then from there, goes on to win it 7-5. Absolutely incredible match. Happy for Draper, despite his unfortunate quarterfinal appearance, which we will get into in a little bit. Medvedev faced Mickelson, the American. He won 6-2, 6-4 in his round of 16 match. Otto took on Felix Auger-Aliassime. I can never say that name correctly. It gets me literally every time. Fields won this one rather handily. The first set was pretty easy for him. He broke FAA, and from there it was smooth sailing. His forehand looked incredible. His serve was at a high velocity, and he just looked comfortable on the court. Second set, wasn't able to break Felix, but ultimately won it in the tie break. Some great tennis from Fields as he went on to face Zverev in the quarterfinals. Zverev himself faced Tiafoe, and Zverev is 8-1, now 9-1 against Big Foe, and winning, and he won that round of 16 match 6-3, 6-4. Zverev's serve is just so consistent, it's ridiculous. His first serve percentage is averaging above 70%, and we see that match after match, not just at Indian Wells, but this whole season. It's quite impressive, and it's really hard to beat him when he's serving that consistently. Next, we move on to Lerner Tien versus Davidovich Fokina. Lerner Tien, the 19-year-old from Southern California, playing in what feels like his home tournament almost. Well, he wanted to make a statement in that case, and boy did he. He took this in the third set, winning 4-6, 6-1, 7-6. Yet another tie break, and Davidovich Fokina just mentally collapsed. He just was consumed by Lerner Tien's defense in that tiebreak, and it's really impressive stuff from the young kid. Just 19 years old, and he's now made it to the quarterfinals of Indian Wells and the quarterfinals of the Australia Open. He has a very bright future ahead of him. We'll get into his quarterfinal matchup soon. The final round of 16 that we're going to cover is Sinner versus João Fonseca. And this match would have been match of the tournament until that Draper Djokovic match, because João Fonseca is finally starting to show the tennis that we all expected him to be playing. Now, he's just, 20 years old? So he has plenty of time to develop, Carlos was just kind of bursting on the scene at 18, 19, so Fonseca might be like a year or two behind him, but he's got the tools. He's got all of the tools to make himself into a fantastic player. His forehand is so powerful that he almost took Yannick Sinner's head off at one point. Sinner kind of gave up the point, and Fonseca smashed a 119-mile-an-hour winner right at him. And it didn't look like it was on purpose. He was just trying to win the point, and he went right down the center of the court where Sinner happened to be standing. His serve is also gotten so much better. He's serving consistently over 130 miles per hour, and it's pretty good. His first serve percentage, I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up, but he was serving very well. Let's take a quick look. Let's see if we can pull that up. I believe that was Tuesday. Match details. First serve percentage was 70.4%. So incredible service game, or I should say service match from Fonseca. Just unable to get over the line. Sinner winning 7-6, 7-6. But he made Sinner look uncomfortable at times. Gotta be honest. There were some incredible drop shots played by Fonseca. And I think this was the first time that we can all really confidently say that we were watching a future top 5 ATP player. He's finally growing into his game, and he's more mature on the court, we'll say. Now let's move into these stunning quarterfinal matchups that we had yesterday. Starting off with Zverev versus Otto Fields. The problem with Fields right now is that he is playing poorly at times due to his inconsistency. And when that happens, he just completely loses it mentally. For example, yesterday, when he started losing and he was getting more and more frustrated, and he was hitting more and more unforced errors, ended up smashing his racket. And this happened against Alcaraz in Qatar. I think he just needs to realize that there are players better than him on tour. He's ranked, 30 right now, roughly? And he's playing against the number 4 player in the world, Zverev, who has now reached an incredible feat in and of itself. I believe he's only the 5th or 6th player to make it to every semifinal of a Masters 1000 tournament. So hats off to Zverev. But he has such high standards for himself, which is incredible. That's what you want. You want to have high standards for yourself. But at a certain point, you have to look at it and think, all right, he's just played a better match than me. I'll put my hands up. I'm not playing well right now. Like the smashing of the racket and the showing of that attitude is just not what you want to see. And yes, every player does it. We saw Taylor Fritz smash a racket earlier this tournament. So it's tough to really judge him super hard on that. He's still very young, just 21 years of age. He'll learn. But shout out to Zverev handily taking down Fields 6-2, 6-3. The only thing he's missing on his resume at this point in his career is that elusive Grand Slam title. Will he ever get it? I don't think so, as long as both Alcaraz and Sinner are healthy in tournaments, but he can hope. What's up, Swift? Happy Friday, my man. Welcome to the stream. Next, we're covering Sinner versus Lerner Tien. And now, one, it's hilarious that Sinner is just playing all of the future stars, we'll call them, in this tournament. First Fonseca and now Lerner Tien. And this was an incredible test for Lerner Tien because there's so much hype around him right now. He's only 19 years old. He's got the world at his feet, you could say. But this match was really a welcome to the show match for Lerner Tien because, yeah, beating other top 30 opponents is wonderful. Winning against number 18 overall, Davidovich Fokina, is very impressive. But if you want to make it to the top, these are the kind of matches you're going to find yourself in. and he's going to learn from this. No pun intended, Mr. Tien. But Sinner takes this one easily, 6-1, 6-2. His ability to just mentally destroy his opponents with his side-to-side play, forehand and backhand, is almost hypnotizing. You get into this rally and eventually you're going to make a mistake because you're going to have to try to hit a winner. But his court coverage recently has just been phenomenal that you feel like you're being swallowed and there's nothing you can do. Then you're forced to try to make exceptional shots, and that's where the unforced errors come in, and that's ultimately what was Lerner Tien's demise. Speaking of Sinner's mobility, this is excellent going into the French Open because playing on clay, obviously, you need fantastic mobility. And I think that's what Sinner's trying to model his game after right now, just really focusing on that movement because he's looking for that career Grand Slam title at Roland Garros. He will face Zverev in the semifinals tomorrow. That's going to be an incredible match. Really looking forward to that. Next, quarterfinal, Draper versus Medvedev. And after that Djokovic match that went 2.5 hours, I believe. No, it's not the longest match in modern day tennis, but you have to think he's just coming back from injury. This is his first really big tournament. He was going to be gassed, and boy, did it show. He just looked off of it, especially in that first set. He seemed unmotivated almost. Medvedev won this one 6-1, 7-5. And that first set was just non-competition from Jack. He finally started finding something in the second set. He looked pretty decent. But then when it was 5-5 in the match, Draper was on serve. It was love 15. He gets into a rally with Medvedev. He kind of throws his arms up like this at one point, makes no noise, gets back to the rally. They have another 3 shots or so. Medvedev goes and calls for a video review. The chair umpire acknowledges. They review it. And then she calls hindrance on Draper. No noise was made. He just threw his hands up. And you could say hindrance if Medvedev had messed up that very next shot. But the rally continued for another 3 shots. And that's what Draper was arguing. The analysts all agreed that it was ridiculous to call hindrance. That made it love 30. It kind of felt like the match was over there. Draper was in his head. Medvedev went and took it. Now, this is nothing to take away from Medvedev as he played absolutely incredible. I mean, he destroyed Draper in that first set, 6-1. He's been playing class this tournament and really this whole season, to be fair. I mean, he's already got 1 title under his belt, and he's looking to climb back into that top 10. The final quarterfinal match was last night, Carlos Alcaraz versus Cam Norrie. And this was always going to be an interesting match because they've had interesting matches in the past. I believe the head-to-head record was 3-2 in favor of Alcaraz, so Norrie gives him a bit of trouble. Well, last night, Carlos did end up winning in straight sets, 6-4, 6-3. But Norrie made it interesting at points, breaking Carlos, putting him under pressure. His serve was decent. Now, the start of the match was unfortunate for Norrie. I think it took him 7 points to win his first point, and it was on his serve. But after that, he settled in. It's just the variety that Carlos Alcaraz plays with. You can't beat it. There was one point, I can't remember if it was in the match yesterday or if it was in that round of 16 match versus Casper Ruud, where Alcaraz had a rally where he hits a smashing forehand, probably 115 miles an hour, 111 miles an hour, something like that. Ruud returns it. He then hits a slice backhand. Ruud returns it. He then hits a heavy top spinning forehand. Ruud returns that. He's out of position a little bit. And then finally he ends the rally with a drop shot. 4 very different types of shots. Just the creativity that Alcaraz has to diversify his shot making is second to none at the moment, and it's what makes him so dangerous to play against. He'll go on to face Medvedev in the semifinal matchup that could get interesting. I'm not saying Medvedev's going to win, but I hope to at least see 3 sets out of this one. Then we will have the final on Sunday. It's looking right now like it could be our first Sincaraz final of the season, and that would be lovely because, let's be honest, we all want to see great tennis, and every time these two play each other, it's fireworks. So definitely hoping for that. I'm not sure what time that's going to be on Sunday. Might potentially go live for it. We'll see. I'm still feeling it out. But that might be a watch along. Next, we will move on from tennis. I will be watching more tennis today. I believe there's some WTA. Let's actually cover the WTA really quickly. Just because the WTA in itself has been absolutely fantastic, to be honest. We have Aryna Sabalenka taking down Victoria Mboko 7-6, 6-4. Mboko is having such an incredible year. The last 365 days from her have been an absolute fairy tale. Her meteoric rise to the top is something to watch for going forward. She will potentially crack into the 9 spot after making it to the quarterfinals. The next quarterfinal matchup was Noskova versus Gibson, the qualifier from Australia, earning loads of points. But it's ultimately Noskova who goes through, winning 6-2, 4-6, 6-2. Then we had an absolute crazy matchup last night. Jessica Pegula versus Elena Rybakina. I mean, wow, what an absolute thunderous matchup this is. It's Rybakina, though, as she moves on to the semifinals, taking down Jess Pegula 6-1, 7-6. Pegula is an incredible player and playing very well at the moment. She just won, Dubai? But Rybakina, unfortunately, is just way too good for Pegula at the moment. This semifinal appearance has taken her to number 2 in the world. She's already got 1 Grand Slam under her belt this year. It's poised to be a big year for Elena Rybakina. The final match to cover in the WTA was Elena Svitolina versus Iga Swiatek. Svitolina ultimately takes this one 6-2, 4-6, 6-4, and she will face Rybakina in the semifinals. If I had to predict the rest of the way going forward, I'm going to say it's going to be another showdown between Sabalenka and Rybakina, the repeat of the Australian Open final. And I think Sabalenka is going to take this one. I really like her odds, to be honest. Now that we've covered everything tennis related, there's going to be a lot more Indian Wells this weekend. We're going to be covering all the results on Monday's show, so definitely look out for that. Now let's go to some football, the Champions League recap. This week we had 8 Champions League games. First, let's start with Tuesday's matches. And the first match of the day on Tuesday, Galatasaray versus Liverpool. Now, this was a bit of a boring game, to be honest. I thought this was going to have more fireworks because Galatasaray are excellent at home. Like, they score goals. Osimhen had some chances that he wasn't able to slot away. It's ultimately Lamina who scored in the 7th minute, and that was the only goal that we saw out of this game. A bit of a snooze fest, but that's all right. Galatasaray will be heading to Merseyside next week with a 1-0 lead on aggregate. Next, we have Bayern versus Atalanta. And this was just a slaughtering. You almost feel bad for Atalanta because they're playing in front of their own home fans, but Bayern are just too powerful at the moment. This was thrashing. After just 25 minutes, it was 3-0. Stanisic, Olise, Gnabry, Jackson, and Musiala all find themselves on the score sheet for Bayern. Pulisic was able to get a consolation goal for Atalanta just so the fans had something to watch in the 90th minute +3, but it was all Bayern for this entire match. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, if we look at the Bundesliga table, Bayern have, I believe, 95 goals for? Let's see. They have a goal differential of +68. They have 92 goals scored and only 24 given up this season. So they have a vibrant attack, but also a staunch defense, something that a lot of teams won't want to see going forward in the Champions League. Next match, we have Atletico Madrid versus Tottenham. And Atletico Madrid had all of La Liga at stake here because Tottenham are one of the worst teams left in the Champions League, as they are just 1 point above the relegation zone in the Premier League. Igor Tudor yet to has a win in his tenure with Tottenham. He makes a bold decision to drop Vicario and play the young Kingsky in net. And that was hell. Not only for Tottenham fans, but for Kingsky as well. He made some gruesome errors early on. And Tottenham find themselves 3-0 down inside of 15 minutes. The official time on that third goal was 14 minutes and 59 seconds, marking it the fastest a team has ever gone down 3-0 in Champions League history. Quite a feat for Tottenham. They're still breaking records out here, folks. Kinsky was then subbed off by Tudor in, I believe, the 30th minute or so, maybe the 20th. And this poor kid, as a goalkeeper, I feel for him. You saw some messages from David De Gea online. Courtois said he reached out to him privately. Subbing a goalkeeper out after making those mistakes, listen, your head is already absolutely done in. You've just cost your team probably the Champions League tie, and now you're starting to think to yourself, what am I doing with my career? What's going to happen going forward? And to get subbed off is just so cruel from Tudor. I mean, he shouldn't have even started Kinsky in the first place. To just throw him into the Wolves in the Champions League at Atletico Madrid, nonetheless, the Wanda Metropolitano is infamous for swallowing teams alive. And that's exactly what happened. So my heart goes out to Kinsky. I hope that he's doing all right. Keep your head high, bro. Us goalkeepers got to stick together. It's tough out here. But even when Kinsky was then subbed out, Vicario still gave up 2 goals. So, yes, it could have gone worse, but the tie seemed pretty dead and gone from there. Llorente, Griezmann, Alvarez, and Lenormand all on the score sheet for Atletico Madrid. Porro and Solanke did manage to scrape 2 goals for Tottenham, though. This tie is going to be very hard to come back from, especially with Atletico's staunch defense, but Tottenham will need to find themselves scoring 3 just to get to penalties against this Atletico team. The final match on Tuesday was Newcastle versus Barcelona. And this match was a stalemate up until the 86th minute when Newcastle finally broke through via Barnes scoring. Newcastle think that they've taken the result heading to Barcelona with a 1-0 lead on aggregate until UEFA Lona show up and are awarded a penalty in the 90th minute plus, I believe, 5 minutes of stoppage time. Are we surprised? No. Lamine Yamal steps up, slots it away to make it 1-1, and Barcelona are feeling a lot more comfortable after that going home. Now, Wednesday's match, we start off with Leverkusen versus Arsenal. Leverkusen score at the start of the second half, believe it or not, from a corner against Corner FC. Would you believe that? They looked to leave Germany up 1-0 on aggregate until Nani Madueke did his best scuba diver impression, as there was barely any contact, and then he took an additional 2 steps, and then going for gold in Arsenal fashion, he absolutely flops onto the floor. He actually jumps into the air, and that's always the first sign of a dive. Usually you just start going right down to the ground, but when you jump into the air, unless you got trotted on, it's a dive. Somehow, Arsenal are still awarded the penalty, though. Havertz steps up, slots it away in the 89th minute, and managed to leave Germany 1-1 on aggregate. This is heading back to the Emirates, and you got to back Arsenal to go on and win it now. Next match is Bodo Glimt versus Sporting. Let me say, I'm a massive Bodo Glimt fan right now. I mean, these Norwegians are playing one of the best brands of football in the world. And they're not just beating up on shit teams either. Like Dortmund win, Manchester City win, Atletico Madrid win, Inter Milan win. Now, Sporting win. They are playing absolutely fantastic football at home. It's such a joy to watch. It's refreshing. It gives you those 2019 Ajax vibes. And I hope they go on a similar run to that Ajax team. Screw it. I hope they win the whole damn thing. Because they actually play some exciting football, unlike a lot of other teams we're seeing in the world right now, namely the Premier League ones, as they just try to win corner after corner and try to manufacture goals that way. It's Fett, Blomberg, and Hauch all on the score sheet for Bodo Glimt. I'll be rooting for them the rest of the way. They might be a top 5 team in all of Europe when playing at home. They are just very good there. Next, we move on to PSG versus Chelsea. PSG win this one 5-2. Barcola got this Champions League tie started early on in the 8th minute. It's Malo Gusto equalizing for Chelsea in the 28th. Dembele puts PSG back on top in the 40th minute. Enzo Fernandez levels it again for Chelsea in the 57th. And you're starting to think, wow, this match might be an absolute all-timer. We might get an incredible tie here from PSG and Chelsea. That is until PSG locked in. Vitinha scored in the 74th minute. Then Kvaratskhelia unleashes a thumping strike into the top corner in the 86th minute and 90th minute to seal this one for the Parisians. PSG looks so solid right now. Yes, they did just lose to rivals Monaco in Ligue 1, but the Champions League is really their cream of the crop. That's what the defending Champions League title winners would want to win. Next, we have Real Madrid versus Man City in Swift. If you're still in here, this was a tough one for your boys. Real Madrid 3, City 0. This matchup is starting to become a bit of a classic as we see it year in and year out. I believe this is the 6th or so year that we're seeing this matchup. And this game was all Real Madrid. Or should I really say this game was all Federico Valverde, as he nets himself a first half hat trick. All pretty good goals as well. He scores in the 20th minute, the 27th minute, and the 42nd minute. And let me say, that goal in the 42nd minute was one of the better goals I have seen this year. The ball's dinked into him in the box. He gets the ball, flicks it over one defender, and then volleys it home. Just ridiculous stuff from him. Valverde can play absolutely anywhere on the pitch, whether you need him at right mid, center mid, right back, shit, even striker, he could go there too. Honestly, if you threw him in net, I bet he would play incredible. But the type of player that he is, the mindset that he has, it is carrying this Real Madrid team right now. You could only wish that you had one of those players at your club. It's going to be tough for the citizens to come back from this. 3-0 down, at least they'll be playing at home in the second leg. Let's see what they can do. Let's see what City can do. I'm sure that, they'll get back into it one way or another. We've seen crazier things happen in this tie in the past, so I expect City to go full throttle next week. It's such a poor showing from the Premier League clubs overall. I mean, Newcastle with arguably the best result this past Champions League week. That's enough for the Champions League, though. Let's now go into the Premier League preview for this weekend. Burnley on Saturday host Bournemouth as the Clarets fight to stay in the Premier League. This continues against the Cherries, who are fighting to stay in the top half of the Premier League. With that being said, give me a draw 1-1. Burnley at the Turf Moor, playing some good defense for once this season to get that 1-1 draw and take a vital point. Sunderland welcome the Seagulls of Brighton to this Stadium of Light, and just 3 points separate these teams from, I believe, 10th, 11th, and 14th. This is a very interesting game. Sunderland have loads of players injured right now. The injury bug has struck them hard. And I believe they're getting about 5 players back for their derby match versus Newcastle coming up next week. Now, they don't want to look ahead to that because Brighton are a tough team. On their day, they're incredible. Fabian Hertzler has them playing an exciting brand of football. It just so happens when they're off of it, they're really off it. I do like Brighton to go and win this one and stun Sunderland at home. Give me Brighton to win 2-0. Next, we have Arsenal versus Everton as Arteta faces his former club at the Emirates. They look to keep their lead at the top. And, this game is being presented as a Premier League match when in reality it should actually be categorized as a WWE match for what we're about to see take place from these corners. Both of these teams love wrestling players to the ground. Tarkovsky, huge proponent of that. Same with Gabriel, Declan Rice, and many others on that Arsenal team. I mean, seriously, this game is just going to be corner after corner. And these players are going to feel like they're at the bottom of the pile in Battle of Bastards from Game of Thrones, just clutching for air, clutching for anything to help themselves stay up. It's going to be a war of attrition in that penalty box, for sure. I like Arsenal to win it, though. Give me the Gooners to win 3-1 as they knock themselves off a few points at the top. It's really just such a bad brand of football. It's disgusting. But I digress. Next, we'll move on to Chelsea versus Newcastle. And this is an absolutely brutal stretch of matches for these two teams. I mean, playing each other. Chelsea played Villa recently. Newcastle played United. They ended up winning. They played City. They lost that one. They play Sunderland next week. And all smashed in the middle of that is their Champions League tie versus Barcelona and Chelsea playing PSG. These teams are going through it right now. Both just trying to survive, but it's Chelsea that desperately need these 3 points as they look to continue their fight for Champions League football. Currently sat 5th in the table right now as Liverpool are level on points with them, but they're just 3 points behind 3rd place Manchester United. I think Chelsea are going to win it. I think it's going to be a thriller. Give me Chelsea to win it 4-2 at home. Final match Saturday, we have West Ham versus Manchester City. The Hammers welcome in 2nd place Manchester City, and this game is going to be better than everyone leads it to believe. West Ham at home are a tough team to play. For some reason, that pitch just looks so small and swarmed. I don't know if it's because the outside of the pitch are so big or the camera angle of the stadium. I don't know what it is, but they just look suffocating at home, and they're pretty decent at home. They're also desperate right now, and teams that are desperate are very scary to play against. They are tied with Forest in the relegation zone. They're down on goal differential, but if they win this one, and we'll get into it a little bit, Forest, if they win, Tottenham are really going to find themselves in some danger. City need this win, and Arsenal to drop points to get back within 4 points of the Premier League. I think it's going to be City dropping points, to be honest. I think this game's in a draw 2-2. Now, let's move on to Sunday as Palace host Leeds in a classic random Premier League matchup, as Leeds find themselves in 15th, Palace in 13th. You love one of these random matchups. You know why? Because there's always an absolute screamer scored in them for no reason at all. You see these games end maybe 2-1, 3-2, and someone absolutely knocks one out of the park. And in my opinion, that's going to be Adam Wharton. So give me Palace to win 2-1 and Wharton to score an absolute banger this weekend versus Leeds. Next, we have my Manchester United taking on Aston Villa. And I need these 3 points. Manchester United, please. I desperately need these 3 points in my life. You have taken so much from me this season. Out of the Carabao Cup early to Grimsby, literally the first game. Out of the FA Cup in our first game. No European football. I've only had to watch Premier League football, a total of just 40 games this year I'll get to watch from Manchester United. And I don't know if that's good or bad, because this team can be so depressing, but can also bring you to the highest of highs. I don't think we've played 40 games since the 80s. That being said, I really need United to win to keep this Champions League dream alive. We're in third. We're on 51 points, but we're only 3 points back. We're clear, I should say, of 6th place. We need Champions League football for investment into the team, for morale, to get a good coach. It is vital. With that being said, I think United are going to take this one at home 3-2. Villa are coming off playing in the Europa League Thursday night. They're going to be knackered. United have to take advantage, play with high intensity, and get a result this Sunday. Next, Forest host Fulham. Forest welcome Fulham. Like West Ham, need a real bad win. Need to win really bad. Really bad. They're level on points. They're both on 28 points. They're in that relegation battle. Backs are to the wall. Give me Forest to win 1-0, because when your back's against the wall, that's when you show up. And I think the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and Elliot Anderson are going to carry this Forest team. The final match Sunday is Liverpool versus Tottenham, and both of these teams are just having exceptionally weird seasons. Liverpool winning the title last year, you expect them to be challengers this year, but no, they just look so off of it. Slot's brand of football is not translating over to the Premier League, because last year, to be honest, it was largely Klopp's tactics still. He was just managing the team, managing the players. Now they find themselves in 6th place and down 1-0 in the Champions League. Tottenham, though, is even worse. I mean, they are a mess of a club. They've already sacked one manager. They're looking like they're going to sack another manager. They are just 1 point above the relegation zone. They're probably out of the Champions League. It's bad to worse for Tottenham. But again, when a team's got their back up against the wall, that's when they try to typically play their best football. And Tottenham so desperately need a win. So give me Tottenham to upset the Scousers 2-1 in Merseyside. Next, we move on to the lone match on Monday, the final match of the Premier League weekend. Brentford hosting Wolves. Let's face it, Wolves are just a pitiful team. You know, at home, they have some vibrant games, drawing against Arsenal, beating Villa, beating Liverpool, but it's these other kind of not meaningless, but less hyped games, we'll say, that they just get battered, and they have been all season. For that reason, give me Brentford to win 2-0. They're trying to keep their European hopes alive. They might get Conference League football. They're currently sat in 7th place. I think the Bees are just going to be too much to handle for the Wolves. That wraps up everything for the Premier League, and that wraps up everything we have for the show. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe, as I am live every Monday and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. I've got a tennis video coming out either later today or tomorrow regarding the future stars in tennis. Arthur Fils, Jakub Mensik, Lerner Tien, João Fonseca. I believe I've left one out. Tune in to see who I've left out off that list and to see who I think is going to have the best 2026. I'm looking forward to the Indian Wells semifinals and finals this weekend. Sunday, again, I might go live for the final. I'm not positive yet. A watch along could be fun for that. Hopefully, United don't disappoint me this weekend, though it's looking like it could be possible. But I personally like to have hope and live on the wild side. Thank you all for watching. Leave a comment with your Premier League predictions as well as who you think is going to win Indian Wells.